The auction house smelled of smoke and fear. Rows of wolves stood on a wooden platform, chained at the wrists, heads bowed low. Among them stood Illyra, thin and pale, her eyes fixed on the floor. She was an Omega, the lowest rank in the pack world, and tonight she was being sold like an object with no name and no worth. Cale Ashbourne, the Alpha King of the Blackthornne pack, had not planned to buy anyone. He had come only to study his rival, Alpha Draven, who ran this weak and cruel pack. Cale wanted to know how many fighters Draven had left, how strong his walls were, how easy it would be to take his land someday. Buying an Omega was the last thing on his mind, but then his eyes landed on her. She did not cry, she did not beg. While the other Omegas trembled and looked away from the crowd, Illyra stood still, her spine straight despite the chains, her gaze steady, even though it was aimed at the ground. There was something strange about her stillness. It was not weakness, it was control. "That one," Cale said quietly to his second-in-command, Bran, "bid on her." Bran raised an eyebrow. "The broken one? Alpha. She's worth nothing. Rumor says her own pack sold her because she was cursed. Bad luck." "I don't care about rumors," Cale said. "Bid." The price rose slowly. Then Cale ended it with a number so high that no one dared to compete. The crowd murmured in surprise. Draven smirked from his seat, thinking Cale was foolish to waste gold on a broken Omega. Cale ignored him. He only wanted to see Draven's face fall when word spread that the mighty Alpha King had taken something from his pack, even something so small. That was what he told himself, at least. The ride back to Blackthornne territory was silent. Illyra sat in the back of the wagon, wrists still marked from the chains, saying nothing. Cale watched her from the corner of his eye. She did not look at him. She did not look at anything except the passing trees, as if she were somewhere far away in her mind. "You have a name?" Cale finally asked. "Illyra," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear, with no shake in it. "You're in Blackthornne territory now. You'll be given a room, food, and work in the pack house. No one will hurt you here." She turned to look at him then, and for a moment, Cale felt as if she were studying him instead of the other way around. "You bought me to make a point to Draven," she said, "not because you care what happens to me." Cale did not answer, because it was true, but something about the way she said it, without anger, without sadness, just simple honesty, made him uncomfortable in a way he could not explain. Life in the Blackthornne packhouse was not kind to Omegas, but Cale made it known that no one was to harm the woman he had brought home. Still, whispers followed her everywhere. The pack members mocked her rank behind her back, calling her the cursed Omega, the broken girl bought for pity. Illyra ignored them all. She did her chores, kept to herself, and spoke only when necessary. Cale found himself watching her more than he intended to. He noticed small things. The wound on her arm, deep enough that it should have taken weeks to heal, closed within days. When a group of young wolves tried to push past her in the hallway, they stepped aside instead, as if some instinct told their wolves to yield to her, even though she wore no mark of rank. And once, when someone mentioned the old royal family, the Luna line that had ruled before a violent coup 10 years ago, Illyra's hands had trembled so badly she dropped the plates she was carrying. None of it made sense for an ordinary Omega. Cale began inviting her to bring his meals personally, instead of leaving it to the kitchen staff. It gave him a reason to talk to her, even if their conversations were short at first. "Why do you flinch when people speak of the royal family?" he asked one evening. Illyra's fingers tightened around the tray she carried. "Because good people die when someone speaks about them too loudly," she said, and left before he could ask more. Weeks passed. Cale assigned his personal healer, Mira, to check on Illyra regularly, telling himself it was simply the responsible thing to do for someone in his household. Mira came to him one evening with a troubled look. "Alpha, her body heals faster than any Omega I've treated. Her wolf feels strange, powerful, almost, buried deep, like she's holding it back on purpose." Cale frowned. "Holding it back? Why would an Omega need to hide strength she doesn't have?" Mira shook her head. "I don't know, but whatever she's hiding, it's not weakness." That night, Kale found himself standing outside Alira's door longer than he meant to, turning the healer's words over in his mind. Slowly, carefully, something began to shift between them. Alira still kept her guard raised most days, but small cracks began to show. She smiled once, when Kale tripped over a training dummy in the yard, quickly covering her mouth as if she wasn't allowed to laugh. She spoke a little more at dinner, asking about the pack's history, the mountains beyond the border, the old stories about the packs before the coup 10 years ago that had thrown the kingdom into chaos. Kale found he liked hearing her voice. He liked the quiet strength in the way she carried herself despite everything she had clearly been through. He began to understand that whatever cruelty had been done to her, it had not managed to break her spirit, only bury it deep beneath careful silence. One evening, as autumn winds swept through the training yard, Kale found Alira sitting alone by the fire pit, staring at the flames. "You don't act like someone who was sold as broken," he said, sitting across from her. "Maybe broken things learn how to look whole," she answered. "It's safer that way." "Safer from what?" Alira looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. "From people who might recognize what I used to be," she finally said. Before Kale could ask what she meant, a voice called from across the yard. His father's old enforcer, Garrick, a wolf who had served the Blackthornne pack for decades, was approaching with urgent steps. He stopped in front of the fire, staring at Alira with wide eyes. "Turn your wrist," Garrick said suddenly, his voice shaking. Alira froze. "Excuse me?" "Your wrist, please." Slowly, Alira turned her arm, revealing a small, faint birthmark near her wrist, a pale crescent moon shape that Kale had noticed before, but never thought much of. Garrick's face went pale as snow. "By the moon," he whispered. "It's her, the lost Luna." The room fell silent except for the crackle of the fire. Kale stood, confused. "What are you talking about, Garrick?" Garrick's hands trembled. 10 years ago, when the royal family was murdered in the coup, there was a rumor, never proven, always denied, that the youngest daughter, the true heir to the Luna line, had been smuggled out before the attack. Hidden, disguised, given away to protect her from the assassins who wanted the bloodline wiped out completely. That crescent mark was the mark of the royal family. I served under the old king. I saw that same mark on his youngest daughter the day she was born. Alira's breathing had gone shallow. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "I don't remember much," she whispered. "I was young. I remember running. I remember someone telling me to never speak of who I was, never show my mark, never trust anyone with the truth. I was passed from family to family, until the last one who kept me treated me as nothing more than a burden. They said an Omega with no memory and no family was easy to hide, easy to sell." Kale felt something shift inside his chest, a mixture of guilt and disbelief. The broken Omega he had bought on impulse to spite a rival was the lost heir of the royal bloodline, a bloodline the entire kingdom believed had ended in blood and fire 10 years ago. "You hid your strength," Kale said slowly. "Your wolf, your healing, all of it." "I had to," Alira said. "If anyone realized what I was, they would kill me before I ever understood why." Word spreads fast among wolves, even secrets meant to stay buried. Within days, whispers of the birthmark reached ears that should never have heard them. Kale doubled the guards around the packhouse, but he knew it might not be enough. Whoever had orchestrated the coup 10 years ago would not want the true heir alive, especially not now that her identity had surfaced. That night, Kale found Alira packing a small bag, preparing to run. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked, blocking the doorway. "Away, before more people get hurt because of me. I've spent 10 years hiding what I am, so that people around me would be safe. I won't stop now." "You're not going anywhere," Kale said firmly. "Not alone. You don't understand what you're risking by keeping me here." "I bought you because I wanted to spite a rival," Kale admitted. "That was cruel and selfish, and I'm not proud of it. But somewhere between then and now, I stopped seeing you as a bargaining chip. I started seeing you as someone worth protecting, not because of any bloodline, but because of who you are." Alira's eyes glistened, but she still shook her head. Protecting me means facing the people who slaughtered an entire royal family without hesitation. Are you prepared for that? I've spent my whole life building an army to protect my pack, Kale said. I think it's time I used it to protect something that actually matters. The attack came 3 nights later, exactly as Garrick had feared. A group of masked wolves, loyal to the old conspirators who had orchestrated the coup, stormed the edges of Blackthornne territory under the cover of darkness, searching for the girl whose bloodline threatened everything they had built through lies and silence. But Kale's pack was ready. Warned in advance, they fought back with everything they had. Kale led the defense at the front lines, refusing to let a single attacker reach the pack house where Alira waited, guarded by Mira and a group of loyal warriors. In the chaos, Alira felt something inside her break free, the wolf she had suppressed for 10 long years, the strength she had buried beneath silence and fear. When one of the attackers broke through the defense line and reached the pack house steps, Alira did not run. She stood her ground, and for the first time since she was a small child, she let her true wolf answer the call. The attacker froze at the sight of her, recognizing too late what she had become. Alira's strength, hidden for a decade, surged forward, and she fought not as a broken Omega, but as the daughter of the old Luna line, protecting herself and everyone around her with a power she had never been allowed to embrace. By the time the fighting ended, the attackers who survived fled into the night, their plan to erase the last of the royal bloodline in ruins. In the quiet after the battle, Kale found Alira standing near the fire pit again, her hands trembling from exhaustion, but her eyes clear and steady in a way he had never seen before. "You didn't run," he said. "I'm done running," she answered. "I spent 10 years hiding to survive. Tonight, I fought to live." Kale stepped closer. "The kingdom needs to know the truth, that the Luna line isn't gone, that you're alive. And if they don't accept me, if they see me only as an Omega who was bought and sold, then they'll be wrong," Kale said. "Because I don't see an Omega standing in front of me. I see the rightful Luna of a bloodline this kingdom thought was lost, and I see a woman I've come to care for more than I ever expected to." For the first time since he had brought her to Blackthornne, Alira let herself smile without hiding it. In the days that followed, word spread through every pack in the region. The lost Luna had been found, alive and unbroken, despite everything done to erase her. Packs that had once bowed to fear and silence began to whisper of hope, of a bloodline restored, of a future different from the one built on the lies of the coup. Kale stood before his own pack and made a declaration that shocked many and moved others to tears. Alira was not his property. She was not a broken Omega bought at auction. She was Luna Alira of the true royal bloodline, and she stood beside him not as someone owned, but as an equal. Alira, in turn, chose to stay, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because for the first time in 10 years, she had found somewhere she wanted to belong. The kingdom that once believed the royal bloodline had ended in blood and fire watched as the lost heir stepped into the light, no longer hidden, no longer afraid, and beside her stood the Alpha King, who had once bought her without knowing who she truly was, now choosing to stand as her partner, rather than her master. Together, they began the long work of healing a kingdom fractured by lies, starting with the simple truth that had changed everything. The broken Omega had never been broken at all. She had only been waiting for the moment she was finally safe enough to become who she was always meant to be,